At our meeting last night, do you remember the white lady I pointed out to you, saying that this is a white lady who has a great story to tell?
Uh-huh.
Her name is Madam Hannah Opperman. She is the mother of a Spanish-speaking girl who was hired by an Afrikaans language magazine called Icke in order to trace several children who disappeared mysteriously in South Africa. I also was involved in attempts to trace these children, most of whom were white and some of whom were black. All these children had one characteristic in common. They were either budding psychics or they were leaders in sports and other subjects in their particular school. And they were not chosen, say, at random. They were carefully selected by someone. One day, a white friend of mine prevailed upon me to try and trace one of the missing children. The child had been kidnapped earlier that day, and the news had come on the radio. And I was able to sit in a dark place and to concentrate fiercely on the photograph of the missing child. And I saw her being driven together with two others in the boot of a car. And sometime later, that car, which was driven by 4 men, 3 white and 1 of Hindu appearance, stopped somewhere in the veld, and the children were brought out of the boot of the car. But one of the children, the very child we were seeking, had become very, very ill because of lack of air. And this child we followed in spirit. We found her that she was being taken along a highway that goes into Natal from the north. And then she was taken along that highway until her captors reached the coast. And there she died, and I clearly saw her body being buried in sea sand. What happened to the other 2 children, I do not know. But I can tell you, sir, that after that, I totally refused to get involved in this terrible thing. Why? Because I had seen in visions the faces of the leaders of the satanic kidnapping of children. And some of these leaders were men whose names were very big in South Africa indeed.
How many children go missing in Africa, say every month?
So I learned from a gentleman with a very logical mind, a gentleman who later told me that he was a Freemason, or he is a Freemason, that well over 4,000 children disappear in South Africa every month.
Okay. When you were talking earlier about human sacrifice and longevity, it's quite a thought, the number of Illuminati people who have come up in my research again and again who live remarkably long lives. People that come to mind, and not just long lives, but fit lives for most of it. one that comes to mind immediately is Henry Kissinger and George Bush. And then, although she's getting frail now, the Queen Mother in England. These are people that come up in my research, and they live long lives. It's quite a coincidence.
You know, sir, in this life there is no such a thing as a coincidence.
I know.
These people like these, somehow rejuvenate themselves. I do not want to know exactly how. But when you see a man like Dr. Kissinger, a man who seems to be a very rock of immortality, a man who has changed little since the days of the Second World War, the man who was the leader of this man, namely President Eisenhower, is dead long ago, but Kissinger is still alive, going strong. I would like to point out a very interesting thing to you, sir, that in black communities, especially nowadays, people of extreme old age who still remain active in spite of their old age become targets of witch hunters. They become victims of witchcraft killers. My stepmother is today 98 years old, and at one time a group of young religious fanatics wanted to kill her as a witch because she was so old and had never been sick.
Does it frustrate you, Credo, when you look across this history of Africa that we're talking about to the present day, at how at times the black people of Africa have allowed themselves to be manipulated so often easily?
Yes, sir. It makes my heart to bleed, but at the same time, this is one of the proofs of the fact that in this world we are not the masters of our own destiny. This is one of the proofs that in this world we are controlled by forces far greater and far more ancient than we are. Nations are caught by these creatures, whoever they are, at a time of weakness. Nations are caught at a time when they are either emerging from major wars or at a time when people are coming together to form a new nation or a new tribe or a new clan. And that is where the terrible cheetah will catch them.
You've had a remarkable life, not least because of the horrendous things that have happened to you. But there was one story you told me about what happened, I think it was in Soweto,
Yes.
which encapsulates not just how easy it is to manipulate black people, but how easy it is to manipulate all people, because this is how it happens. When a journalist misquoted you and people believed it. Could you tell us that story?
The story is very simple, sir, and my life is just an ordinary life. First of all, after the Soweto unrest of 1976, all of us who had been supervisors in various municipality installations which had been damaged during the unrest were called before a judge in Pretoria